Hi everyone. Today I have a project that's been in the making for a little while because I'm going to be listening to a band for the first time, as usual. But earlier this year, I had the opportunity to sit down with the band's composer. And before ever hearing a note of music from this band, I got to have a lovely discussion with Earthside's composer, Jamie Van Dyke. And it was an exciting experience for me. I felt like I could relate to what he was saying. Well, he has a lot of musical training, so we were able to speak the same language and have a really lovely discussion. You can find that link here. That's been a few months ago, and it's taken us this long to get that edited and now finally sit down to do the first listen of a piece that Jamie recommended me hear. That is Denial's Aria. And I think he picked it because it has some harp in it, and we were talking about harp in rock music and that sort of thing. So today I'm going to be listening to Earthside's Denial's Aria. Well, I have a few things to read about it first, so let's see what I have to learn. Quick review. Earthside is a New England-based creative collective that plays an absorbing style of modern progressive music that they call cinematic rock. Well, you know, that kind of... It makes me think a little bit of Nightwish, simply because whenever I listen to Nightwish, I've done 2 pieces of theirs now, one fairly early in my journey and then one just recently. I always think they sound like a movie soundtrack sort of approach. Well, cinematic rock. Maybe this is the same general style? We'll see. Jamie Van Dyke graduated from Yale University with a BA in music with a concentration in composition and theory. And maybe now you know why he and I kind of speak the same language. Inspired by the Jungian concept of the anima as the unconscious feminine side of a male, Denial's Aria unfolds as the guilty conscience of a powerful man, berating and goading him in a private moment. Publicly, he is celebrated and held in high esteem, but in those rare moments when he is alone with his thoughts, he hears this anima's voice haunting him, for she knows his secrets and the way he's sold others out and gotten away with exploiting the powerless to get where he is today. He may hide it from everyone else, but he can't shield himself from her knowing derision. This anima, voiced dually by the earthy Keturah and the more airy Vicky over a soundscape that stands out from the more conventional rock metal instrumentation of Earthside, opting for a more cinematic folk noir atmosphere befitting of a television drama series. Well, okay, not so far off. Harps performed by the New York City-based duo Scorpio and electric mandolins supplant guitars. And percussive strikes and scrapes on the inside of a piano largely stand in for a drum kit. That kind of reminds me of some of the modern classical repertoire where, you know, there's some piano music that's performed with what we call a prepared piano. Piano is not the only one, but piano is kind of a big instrument, so it's quite notable when the pianist, instead of sitting down at the keys, stands up and walks around and does things, picks on the strings inside. Sometimes they have things woven between the strings to give funny vibrations and resonance. Sometimes we do it on the harp too. We weave things in. I've even seen music performed with paper clips stuck on the strings and weird things like that. In fact, one of the first pieces I teach a student is a little piece called Raindrops, where you simply learn to take a pencil and run it along the strings while you pluck, and it gives a little boing raindrop sound. So there are all kinds of creative ways of using instruments, and it sounds like Van Dyke is open and happy to employ everything. As the song's composer, Earthside guitarist Jamie Van Dyke sees it, his intent was to effect a mood he describes as gorgeously sinister. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Let's see what this really sounds like.
redeeming. I will be here to write it out. I will be here to write it out. Say it to myself, say it to myself, I've been wrong. Say it to myself, say it to myself, I didn't know wrong. Say it to myself, say it to myself, I give up. Say it's true, say it's
Okay, I like this. I like it. I can feel, I can hear and feel and sense the caliber of design behind it already, just in this opening portion. I guess, should I say this? What I've heard so far, I like better than Nightwish. Apologies to the Nightwish fans out there. But if you like Nightwish, maybe you should check out Earthside because, well, it's true. Jamie told me this is not representative of most of their work, but he picked it for me as the first listen because he thought I would like it. And I guess he's kind of right, isn't he? I like the funny thing is that as I'm listening to this, even though it's such a different style, it reminds me in some ways the way the resonance is set up and the reverb, the spatial qualities of the recording do kind of the same thing that Pink Floyd's Run Like Hell does in setting up that sort of inner world where everything that's being expressed is kind of echoing and swirling around you and kind of inescapable. Maybe it's because I just did the in-depth to Run Like Hell very recently, but it does remind me. And so I think I think he's right to say it sounds gorgeously sinister. It has that sort of eerie, dark side quality. Should I say dark side of Earthside? At the same time, it does have a beautiful feel to it and sound world. Okay, let's back up just a little bit because I wanted to point something out here. This cello is beautiful. And you hear the harp here? Now, just one little element to kind of show you how I already sense the quality of the structure behind it. Although just because you hear something like this doesn't mean that the whole piece is built really well, but this one happens to be. So listen to what the harp is playing right here. Now let's back up just a little bit and hear what we had in the voice.
Say it to myself, say it to myself, I didn't know wrong. Say it to myself, say it to myself, I give up. Say it's true, say it's gone.
You hear how the voice, it's not, the harp and the voice are not exactly mimicking each other, but there is a continuity, a likeness between one and the other. And so when the harp comes in after that lovely legato cello line, then it's kind of recalling us, drawing us back towards what we just heard as a sort of preparation to what's coming.
It's growing, it's dying. You won the war because the fallen man. Celebrations are redeeming. I will be here to let it out. I will be here to let it out. Say it to myself, say it to myself, I'll be wrong.
There's something else, there's something about this piece also that makes me remember, yes, Close to the Edge. Again, there's a sonic quality that this stands on its own 2 feet. It feels like it's not just trying to mimic that piece, but there is a similarity in stylistic sonic elements that even though it's been quite a while since I listened to Close to the Edge, as I'm listening to this, I start to remember things that I heard in that one, and kind of makes me want to go back and listen to it again and refresh my memory, see how much similarity there actually is.
Say it to myself, I'll be wrong. Say it to myself, I didn't know wrong. Say it to myself, I give up. Say it's true, say it's
It's that cello shining through there. I like what he's done with this say it to myself, and he has the 2 voices. Well, just before I got to there, I was thinking I want to make sure that I say how much, not to myself, to you. I want to make sure that I say out loud how much I'm enjoying the way he used 2 voices in this and I'm thinking about, as a composer, when you're trying to create a piece and you're trying to express something, you get these certain ideas in your mind of, okay, this concept of anima, and this is the inner voice of the conscience. To me, it seems like a less than obvious, not totally obvious choice to represent that one voice by two voices. But I think it's great, and I think it works incredibly well here because it gives us two tonal colors. We hear the darker side, we hear the lighter side. It gives us more range, and it gives us the ability to do this wonderful reverberating, echoing, say it to myself, layers upon layers, without actually multi-tracking the same voice. And so, since you have at least two voices going on here, it's not just the layering of it and the staggering of it, but it's also the multiple colors of it that come from the voices that adds this level of tonal complexity and coloration, which is very nice to hear. And I feel like it represents this incredibly well. And it also reminds me of a little book that I just got recently. I just discovered, and I should have known about it long ago. But some of you kind of have the idea that I enjoy not just music, but I enjoy visual arts as well as literary arts. And I just discovered a little book entitled, let's see, I guess it was called A Joyful Noise. And what caught my eye is the description. Poems for two voices. And it's meant to be read by two voices simultaneously. You have separate columns, and sometimes they're reading in tandem, sometimes one or the other, it's call and response. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes it's a bit canonical, sometimes they're reading completely separate things at the same time. And I got it. I was fascinated with the idea. We do this in music so much when you have multiple voices, especially in choral music, which many of you know I love. When you have so many voices, it's natural to start exploring how you can divide them up and layer them and do different things with them. But the idea that a non-musician, it's a classroom of kids learning to read, or a group of friends gathered around the table for dinner, could pull out a little book of poems and divide themselves into groups and have this sort of experience of creating something which has a musical quality to it. And nobody in the group even has to be able to count and keep a meter, much less hold a pitch. And when I got the book, Vlad and I sat down and read a few of them together, and it was so fun. They're for children, and so they're simple, and each one is the topic is insects. So or bugs. Anyway, so that aside, this is kind of a musical example of what one might experience when reading that book, or vice versa. That book is a great example of what it is like to sing this kind of musical passage. Two voices, different places. Yes. A very well-constructed piece of music, which I found very enjoyable to listen to. I wanted to check. Okay. Yes. Percussive strikes and scrapes on the inside of a piano largely stand in for drum kit. There were a couple places where I thought, if that's a piano percussion, it's incredibly sonically modified with the recording. But probably they had a drum kit here and there, I think. It really sounded like it to me. But I like those little slaps and brushes, sounds on wood that you get from treating a piano like that. I especially like it in the ensemble context. It makes a lot more sense to me than some of the few times I've seen it in a solo context, where thinking, okay, so you have one person and you're over here slapping away on the piano, but somebody needs to be playing the keys as well. So I like this better. It's a very good use of that. And I like the texture. This piece is much about texture and tonal colorations, isn't it? And the blend of those, so that we hear this beautiful tapestry that's weaving its way through. And I enjoyed that a lot about it. Jamie is right. He picked a piece with two of my favorite instruments, harp and cello. And they go incredibly well together too. So I can't help but just enjoy the harp and cello in the mix, and he set them very well. I liked the way that in that portion that I was talking about, that little passage with all the echoing and multi-layered voices, I liked the way he set just a little drop of harp here, there, to add to this whole delicate section. And I like the way the cello didn't feel like it was a separate thing. It felt like it belonged to the group. I feel like what he's done, what Earthside, what Jamie Van Dyke have done here, is they have blended a lot of different sounds in a very cohesive manner. Cohesive is the word that I'm going for here. It works incredibly well. Well, that was my first Earthside experience, and now that I have tasted this one, I'm curious to listen to one that's perhaps a bit more representative of their sound and see, do I enjoy it as much, or is this just a standalone that I relate to very easily and the others not so much? So I'm sure you'll see something like that coming in the future, and I'll see you soon.